Mr. Chairman, and thank you for the invitation. It's been great so far. I'm actually learning a lot. So as an IoT and a technologist in computer science, it's really interesting just to see the big picture of agriculture and the challenges that exist. And I think, kudos to Teagasc and the team. I think they've done a phenomenal job with their report. And it's great to actually have to stand up here and not justify technology and why you need it. It's great to actually hear other people. It feels to me like there's a pull for technology, which is phenomenal. So I'm responsible for the Internet of Things Systems Research Lab at Intel. We do lots of research in IoT. We've done that across multiple verticals. I actually come from a very small farm background in Donegal, so the chance to actually apply my research in IoT into an agricultural background is really, really interesting. So that's one of the areas that I'm quite excited about. One of the things that I heard earlier, and I really emphasize this fact, we've done lots of work in the area of what we call living labs, where we take our technologies out into the field. And I think that was mentioned in the report, the fact of actually doing living labs and building this concept of a real-world living test bed where technologists, academics can work together, I think is a really powerful concept. So that's one of the things I'd love to see carry forward from the report. So Intel, we're all about smart and connected devices. You've probably seen the Intel Inside logo, but what a lot of people probably don't know is we span the whole compute continuum. So there's been lots of discussions here around phenome, genomics, data centers, big data, that's where all this activity is happening. So having those technologies, having those large data centers, a lot of those are full with Intel technology. My focus is on the extreme right in wearables and IoT. And I'm not sure if a lot of people know this, but all of Intel's low-power silicon wearables IoT design is actually done in Leixlip here in Ireland. So we are the headquarters for Intel's low-power silicon IoT and wearables and technology. We have a team of really smart people who are designing the next generation wearable technology. My team is focusing on the future research and how we apply that across specific domains. So I think from a IoT perspective, we're very well set up here in Ireland to drive that forward. And there's been lots of discussions this morning around IoT and wearables and what it is, but I was glad to see, it was great to actually hear the description of Moore's Law. Is Gareth around? Or I think he was here, Dr. Banning earlier. That was really interesting because normally we're discussing Moore's Law and it was brilliant to hear other people discuss that. But IoT, it's all about delivering pervasive real-time intelligence. So it's about adding small pieces of compute and communication technology to objects and devices in the environment around us. And that's really what IoT is all about. And the projections are, we've seen it earlier, 50 billion devices by 2020. Now that's a staggering number, which is going to unleash a huge amount of data. But for us as technologists, that really is going to create lots of challenges. And ultimately, when we think of agriculture, to us, it's another domain. We actually categorize it under industrial. But really what it's about, it's connecting these objects, connecting these devices, small little pieces. Right now, we have small pieces of silicon that can actually, they're smaller than your fingertip, and that will basically allow us to connect things like animals with low-power radios that can actually communicate up to 20 or 30 kilometers. So the world is moving fast. Moore's Law is driving this. The cost of processing has gone down 60x over the last 10 years. Network communications is going down, and the cost of sensors is going down. So you're seeing this perfect collision, and this is only going to continue. These type of accelerations, these type of innovations, what that's going to allow you to do is embed computing into the fabric and the world around us. Now, we've done that in numerous different verticals, in energy and buildings and homes, agriculture. It brings with it its own challenges. There's no doubt about it. It's quite a hostile environment. But from a technology perspective, and I see Edward here, these guys are, you could argue, Dairy Master already doing this and leading. So there is some great examples of Irish companies who are doing this. But really what it's all about is connecting and providing intelligence. And how you do that is an area that we're quite good at. So taking it back to agriculture. So if you think about agriculture, we've used this concept of the internet 1.0, 2.0, 3.0. I think you can apply a very similar methodology towards agriculture. You guys know this better than me, but really what we see in the future, and I think this is heavily reflected in the Teagasc Foresight report, it's really how we embed those IoT technologies, how we embed those sensors. What do we do with all this information? And how do we apply that to actually provide some insight and some value? So this is something that we just pulled together for this. And if we think about why IoT in agriculture, and this is really a very simplistic example looking at it from a technology perspective. I mean, there's the monitoring aspect, and I think that's something that Ireland could be really, really strong at. We've got universities here like Tyndall, Kieran's going to talk later. There's a great ecosystem to do this. And essentially monitoring conditions, nutrients, what's happening in the growth, what's happening in the ground. These are, opportunities for us. Control, and then obviously the optimization and benchmarking. And really the control is where I think we can start making a lot of difference. So I don't actually use the term smart agriculture because I think agriculture has been smart, and what I've seen in Teagasc and the people that are in this room, there's lots of really, really good innovations that have been carried forward in agriculture over the last number of years. Optimization and benchmarking, I think this is where it gets really interesting. So if we enable IoT in the environment, if we capture lots of data, what are those specific use cases? What's the value statement? What's the value creation? What does that mean from a supply chain perspective? These are the challenges that we want to address, and ultimately there has to be value. I mean, I think we've clarified a few of them here at the bottom, and I think these relate back to what I've seen in the reports as well. So increasing yield, predictability. How do we increase yield? We need better data, we need better information, we need better insight. One of the basic things. I think there's a great opportunity here to reduce environmental impact as well. So water, even energy within agriculture and the buildings. I think that's a huge opportunity, and that all ties into the wider climate change. And then in the optimization and benchmarking, it's really around cost. How do we reduce cost? What's the value statement? Why would I invest in these type of technology and solutions? There has to be some business value. There has to be some value creation from this. So one of the areas that I've been working on, and actually this came out of my team here in Ireland, we've built a Intel IoT platform with our business partners in Intel. And a lot of this work was born out of basically working in the areas of smart cities. And in smart cities, you've got lots of different actors, you've got lots of different verticals, you've got lots of different data, you've got lots of different silos. So what we've done is we've built an end-to-end Intel IoT reference architecture and platform. If you Google Intel IoT platform, you'll get lots of information on it. But what we've done is we've skewed this into multiple verticals. This is something that Intel will partner with IBM, Accenture, all different companies, large companies, small companies. And what I've done here is we've taken this version and we've modified it to what would this look like for an IoT from a farming perspective. And if you start out at the extreme left, we have this concept of the connected edge. So in agriculture and in most industries that we've gone into, there's this concept of connecting the unconnected. Tractors, animals, wearables, asset tracking, security. There's lots of opportunities and this is what the IoT is all about. It's connecting these unconnected devices, putting small pieces of compute and silicon, embedding them into those objects, potentially embedding them into the ground. So out on the left-hand side here, we do the data analysis and capture, and generally we use this concept of a gateway. Now again, the farm I think is a really hostile environment, so communication challenges. We don't have cellular networks in lots of areas. We struggle in some areas outside towns to get it. But we're looking at the challenges associated with this. So what type of communication technologies will allow me to track an animal that's maybe 20 or 20 kilometers away from the farmhouse? How do I track my assets? How do I optimize? So very much focus here around the data capture, the sensor data, and then also the concept that we're looking at is doing some analytics locally. Not all networks will never be able to handle the 50 billion devices sending information back to the cloud. It's going to struggle. So what we're looking at is how we balance that analytics and data insight to do some of this processing locally here near the edge, and before we send some of it back to the data center. For the big data analysis, a lot of that will happen within our data centers. So that's where we do a lot of the capture. That's where we do a lot of the integration, and where we bring in lots of third-party data. And this is where it gets interesting. And It's how can you capture various different data sources, not just from your own farm, but can you be pulling in information, real-time market data, real-time market analysis? What are those new marketplaces potentially that will get created from here? And that's really where we turn it into the whole concept of precision agriculture. So actionable information, potentially automated operations. You know, the farm is a system of systems. We use this concept in other industries, and we need to think in terms of systems. You've got your own farm, you've got your supply chains, you've got your co-ops. How can you actually build this together into a concept of systems? And I think that type of thinking, that allows you to think end to end. It allows you to build, you know, a real strong value marketplace. And these are some of the opportunities that we think are worth pursuing. And we'd be happy to work with Teagasc and others on this. So, you know, this is our vision for an end to end. And, you know, the key point here that we absolutely want to highlight, you know, we're talking about end to end security and manageability. If you deploy these hundreds or thousands of devices around your farm, you need to make sure that they're secure all the way from the sensor back to the data center. Security is extremely important. You want to be able to scale, you want to be able to manage that. So the first wave of IoT is really very much a scalable and managed solution. In the future, this will become more autonomous. You've got your UAV, your drones, you'll have there's already a lot of good work going on that we've seen earlier in terms of automated tractors and ADAS systems. These type of closed-loop systems are really, really going to become the norm over the next 10 to 20 years. So, you know, this is really just the start of a vision. We're building out these platforms. We've done this in other environments. We're working with, you know, Kieran's team on sensors. We're working with folks in Trinity College and UCD on Insight. So I think in Ireland there's a great opportunity to pull all this together and really build out this end-to-end solution and demonstrate it and make it a real exemplar for the world. And again, this is happening. Keenan's is an Intel customer. Here we're putting in a great example of an Intel gateway, which is sitting on their feeder machines. That's passing information back into the Keenan's cloud. We're getting real-time information. So it's not all PowerPoint. There is examples here. There's examples around the world. We're doing projects in Brazil right now on precision ag. We work with a lot of the large industrial players in the agricultural world. So there's quite a few projects that are currently in place. And again, back to the Ireland opportunity. So Pervasive Nation is a concept. It's coming out of the Connect Centre. This is a Science Foundation Ireland focused centre. It's all around networks of the future and IoT. Professor Linda Doyle runs that centre. One of the things that we're doing is we're partnering with Linda. We want to build out an all-Ireland IoT network. So think about the opportunities of this from an IoT perspective and the opportunity to build leadership in agriculture and technology. Once we have these pervasive networks across the country, that gives us, you know, a very strong strategic advantage to really start rolling out technologies, drive this concept of living lab test beds. So this is something, you'll hear more about this over the next year. It's built off an SFI Infrastructure Foundation grant, but again, I think an area that gives into our Intel, but Ireland and Teagasc, if you want to bring some of your technology reports to life, I think this is one great way of doing it. So we'll encourage you to engage in this with ourselves and the partners in Connect. So just to summarize, the Internet of Things, I think it's a real opportunity, and it's for technology for global change. There was lots of discussions around, you know, the social impact, how do we feed the planet, environmental impact, productivity. All of those three vectors come together from an agricultural perspective. We believe that the Internet of Things, with that increased intelligence, driving that increased business value, gives us lots of opportunities. So, you know, for us, we're very excited about the opportunity to partner with Teagasc and continue to work with our academic partners here and beyond. I think Ireland has a great opportunity. The report is brilliant. Let's turn it into actionable insight, and, you know, we'll be happy to help drive that. Thank you.